Hey everybody, welcome to the couch, episode 27. It might be a weird one because, first of all, I got a new stand for my camera, so it's at a slightly different angle. So I have to remind myself where I'm looking. The perspective for y'all might look a little bit different, but you'll get used to it, and it'll provide a consistency that was not there previous when my camera was just set on a stack of books. The other reason it might be weird is because, like I said, this is episode 27. Episode 26 was filmed on a Monday. I believe that was January 4th. And released at 6 a.m. on Wednesday, the 6th. And then later that day, if you have a TV or a phone or a friend, you know what happened. A bunch of people sort of stormed the Capitol, and people died, people got hurt, people got scared. Fortunately, now people are getting arrested. It was a terrible thing to see, and it was a predictable thing, which in a lot of ways made it all the more frustrating, because we've been building to that for quite some time. And hopefully it was like a crescendo, and we won't see another one for some time. But I don't know. The good news is, if we were going to see another one, it would take place at the inauguration, which is on a Wednesday, which is when this podcast comes out. But let's take it back. This all happened on the 6th. And when it happened, you all know what happened, and you know that it was terrible. And if you got anything good between your ears, you've been paying attention, and you know how I feel about it. I'm fiercely opposed to that kind of behavior and violence in general, and that kind of politics. And I think there's plenty of historical evidence to say that we should be very concerned about what happened, and we should do whatever needs doing to make it very clear that it's not allowed to happen. But moving right along, because this podcast, if it's about anything besides coffee and my songs, I would like to think that it's about hopefully some bigger ideas. And that might make the podcast sloppy because bigger ideas are less tangible, I think. But it's what I'm interested in and where my mind goes. So, this all happened on the 6th, and one of the things that was a heavy feature in the commentary I heard was that 2021 is trash. We made it 6 days before 2021 is trash. I was going through my Facebook memories around about New Year's Eve, and I was confronted with several years, 5 or 6 years worth of people going, "Oh, I can't wait for this year to end." And then we get a new year. We have it off the lot for 6 days. It crashes into a pole in admittedly a very terrible incident. But now 2021 is trash. So I'm going to do some fast math. We have 359 more days of trash before, at midnight, we inconceivably go, everything's fine now. And then, given the law of diminishing returns, we'll probably get 3 days before 2022 is trash. Bad things happen. Terrible things happen. Awful things that if I had the power to undo, I would undo, happen. Saying 2021 is trash after 6 days is a choice you're making. Not noticing the pattern of your own voice declaring every year for the last 6 years to be trash And again, this will be a weird podcast because I'll probably say some stuff that some of you don't agree with, and that's fine. Start a podcast. Or, with some civility, reach on out and tell me why I'm wrong. Because I'm sure that I'm wrong about some stuff. Because I'm saying a lot of this stuff from a position of privilege. And I totally understand that, and I acknowledge that. And I know for some people, 2020 was the worst year of their lives. It was awful. I totally understand that. But I didn't hear 2020 is trash from those people. I heard it from people that look and live a lot like me. And frankly, just get their jollies from going on Facebook and in some witty, hilarious way saying that 2020 was trash and now 2021 is trash. And what I'm saying is trash things happened last year and trash things will happen this year. Possibly worse than last year, possibly worse than any year previous. It seems unlikely, given that we inhabit a world where things like slavery and the Holocaust took place. Not to minimize at all the racism and the anti-Semitism that exists to this very day, and not to say we shouldn't be hard at work. Just saying a little perspective. If you are out of the fire enough that you have the luxury of trying to shift your perspective, I think you have a responsibility to shift your perspective, because some people do not have the time or the means to sit and think about how they think. And those people don't need your help feeling bad, and they don't need your help thinking that everything's terrible, because for them everything is terrible. You chiming in, I don't view as allyship or whatever you want to call it. I view it as dress up. If your year wasn't a dumpster fire, you got no business saying it was. It's not solidarity. It's trying to edge into the spotlight. It's, oh, my year was bad too, don't forget about me. Sorry. The other thing that frustrates me is like this idea that life must be one thing. We talked last week about a band called Flogging Molly that was instrumental in my learning that music can be more than one kind of music, and even music fandom can involve more than one kind of music. Life can be more than one thing. You can laugh at a funeral if the joke is right. If the joke is funny, if you go to a funeral where everyone's really sad and you tell a joke that's good enough and funny enough that it makes people laugh, it doesn't mean that you and everybody else there are bad people. It means humor exists and love exists, and it's in those moments where if you can bring those things, you should bring those things. What frustrates me is not people having a hard time and crying out that this year has been terrible. I have sympathy for them. What frustrates me is when I know for sure that your year hasn't been all that bad, but you have witnessed a bad year from the outside and have found some social reason to participate in the crying out. It's inauthentic and it upsets me. And it's dishonest. I think, life is more complicated than that. People are more complicated than that. And both things are deeper and stronger than that. You need not look very hard at all to find pictures of Martin Luther King shooting pool and laughing and sharing some music. I have a DVD called The Night James Brown Saved Boston. And it was right after the assassination of Dr. King, and this city was going to come apart. And James Brown came to town, and he did his thing. There was not a ton of talk. There was not a big speech. There was not a rallying. It was just, these people need a moment of peace. They need a moment to feel something other than what they're feeling. James Brown can provide that. At the time, maybe only James Brown could provide that. So he showed up and was full on James Brown, and he kept this city and these people from coming apart. And in that way, I think was the hero of the day on that particular day. So if you can be the guy or the gal who has the song that's going to give people 3.5 minutes to breathe and remember that there's still a chance this could be okay. Work to be done, for sure. Tears to be cried, for sure. But a future, almost definitely. If you can bring that song or that joke or that painting or that show or that story or that damn hug or that meal, you have a responsibility to bring it. And there are too many people shirking that responsibility in favor of participating in a kind of flaccid wailing coming from people whose lives are going all right. They're not going great, but on a scale, compare your 2020 to this person's 2020, you're doing okay. Okay enough that no one needs to hear you cry. And I understand everything wrong with what I'm saying, and I understand what some of you are thinking about what I'm saying and what you could say in response, and that you would be right. And that there are plenty of circumstances in which if you applied what I'm saying, it would be crazy and stupid and awful and shouldn't be done. I'm saying if you came here to hear what I was thinking, that's what I was thinking on Wednesday. I was thinking, I'm scrolling through Facebook and it's just everybody saying the same thing that everybody else is saying, and everybody is saying it 5 times or more. And I'm going, why? For what reason is this happening? I believe in being informed, and I believe in being educated and having your finger on the pulse and being in the know and your responsibility to be all those things. I don't think that's why a lot of people go on Facebook and want to be the first one to tell you the terrible thing. They're getting something out of it, and that something is gross. It's sinister and gross. Let's have some coffee. I don't even know if I'm going to post this podcast. Because admittedly, I went a little hard there at the beginning. And admittedly, like I said, there are 1,000 ways in which I'm wrong right now. But there's got to be at least one way I'm right. The other thing that happened on Wednesday, and has been happening since COVID started, which for me, we're well past 300 days now. The other thing that happened, again, is these pesky little voices from out in the world saying that art didn't have a place in all this. That you shouldn't be releasing a podcast today. You shouldn't release a record today. You shouldn't put out a song today. And I'm just flatly opposed to that way of thinking. And I know I'm being possibly oddly opinionated today, but I'm on my 4th cup of coffee, and I don't care. I can only assume that after 27 weeks of this, you've come here because from some angle you value what I have to say or think, even if you couldn't have possibly agreed with everything I said these last 27 weeks. But I know for a fact some people are finding value in it. So, and if I'm wrong, I'm okay with being wrong. I am not my ideas. I'm not that kind of person. But I understand why art can seem less important during a time of tragedy. Obviously, I get that. But in another way, it sort of doubles in importance during a tragedy. There's a reason that we have music at funerals. There's a reason that after 9/11, there was a concert to bring people together and raise money for first responders. And if you're going to watch Springsteen do My City of Ruins at the 9/11 concert and tell me that art doesn't have a place amidst suffering, get out of here. Get off my lawn. I'm not in the mood. Because you're trying to kid us both, and I don't have the patience. I know none of you would say that because you're here, which means you're cool and you dig art. But I feel like I'm not going to say that my podcast or my song can't help someone through a bad time because A, I know that it has before. They have before. And B, other people's art and podcasts have helped me through bad times. So if we can all acknowledge that during bad times, we need these things to comfort, to distract, to rally. You know, there's countless political protest and punk songs that are still art. They're still songs, and they play a very different role than my stuff does in moments of strife and friction, but it's important. I don't go for that stuff can be useful, but at the same time shouldn't be made in the moment or released in the moment. And the other problem is, for a lot of people, myself included, creativity, I hesitate to call it a job, but it is how I pay my rent. Do you know what I mean? Like if something bad happens and you're telling me I shouldn't make things, you're telling me not to go to work that day. And I would wager that most people saying that went to work that day. None of the gas stations closed when something terrible happened, but the recording studios should, I guess. And the other thing is, like, art existing, good art, even good art that aims to bring comfort to people. I have a lot of songs. This whole podcast exists because I want to help people feel better. I don't make a ton of money on this podcast. I don't get a ton of views on this podcast. It's not a wildly successful podcast unless you measure the success of a thing by if anyone connects with it. And a small number of people connect with this podcast, and that's literally why I keep making it. So to have a moment when people need to connect and they need, I'm not saying ignore what happened. I'm saying if you've watched 6 hours of news and you've scrolled with bloodshot eyes through a day's worth of horror on social media and you need a half hour to come talk to your buddy and hear a song, I got you. And then right back to it. You know what I mean? But art shouldn't stop because something bad happens, because nothing else stops. People with their mindless opinions didn't stop. Politicians didn't stop. Like I said, the gas stations didn't close. If people can make memes about a tragedy the day the tragedy takes place, you should be allowed to release songs. And you should be understanding if your song isn't the most important thing in the world to people that day. But especially for someone like me who releases things, I would say, with a very open hand. I just put it out. And I don't put any sort of paywall between people and the thing. I don't put any kind of membership or club or whatever between people and the thing. To see people saying that I shouldn't be doing that, I just flatly disagree. And I would like to think I've made a pretty good case. Or maybe I just rambled really, really, really fast for 18 minutes. Anything's possible. Fourth cup of coffee, after all. How are you guys doing? We don't get to police other people's reactions. When terrible things happen, I make the joke. I laugh. And it's not because I'm not sensitive. It's not because I'm not feeling the thing. It's not because I'm not racked with anxiety and fear, possibly even more so than the next guy. It's just what I do. It's how I arrived here. You know? And I don't think it's anybody's place to tell anybody else, unless you're hurting people, how to handle your fears and your hurt and your anxiety and your worry. Because I could do a 3-hour podcast on what the vibe was in my home last Wednesday, and the anger and the sadness and the fear and the chaos and the trying to explain it to a child, and the wondering how far it's going to spread, and the hearing from people outside of the country about how it's being reported outside of the country. And that all happened too, and will continue to happen. It all happens all the time. That's the thing. Life is everything. It's happy and it's sad and it's confusing and it's exciting and it's all these things. And at various points throughout the day and the week and the month and the year and the life, different aspects of life are jockeying for the lead, but they're all still there. And I don't buy it. When people say like, nope, today was just bad, I cannot buy that, because on whatever day you're talking about, I had a son that I love like crazy. I have a wife. I have friends. I had something to eat. I had a place to live. And I know that sounds like hippy dippy bullshit. I get that. And I don't think I'm hippy dippy. I just think, like, let's be honest with ourselves, that none of it overwrites the bad stuff. None of it even necessarily outshines the bad stuff. But it is there. And if we're going to have an honest conversation about the world and life and how to move through life, we have to acknowledge that it's all there, you know. I guarantee you that at least one point in the history of humanity, someone met the love of their life at a funeral. I guarantee you that at one point, someone got into a fist fight at a wedding. It's all there all the time. And I don't think we should try to silence or push out the voices that are trying to gently remind us, like, it's all there. We should absolutely kind of ignore and silence the voices that say, like, it's not that bad, nothing bad's happening, everything's fine, here's a song. We should absolutely silence the voices that are saying, like, hey, I want to be famous on a day that shouldn't be about me. Absolutely. But I think we should stop trying to simplify everything and then take our feeling about a thing and try to apply it to the whole world. And a lot of people, for me, releasing a song is part of the process of writing it. And one of the many reasons I write songs is to try to understand how I feel about something. And sometimes people hear it and feel the same way, and sometimes they don't. But to say that, like, oh, you shouldn't release art today, or you shouldn't release art about this thing. People said you shouldn't write songs about the pandemic. Guess what, buddy? I'm living through the pandemic, and I write songs about my life. So shut it. It's just, you know, that's how I feel. And I'm going to assume you guys came here to find out how I feel, and now you know. Fourth cup of coffee. You guys want to hear a song? Let's do a song. This is one of those songs that's terribly inappropriate because it's a happy song. And it's a song about... I wrote it specifically about I hesitate to say, because people have applied it to different things. Some people apply it to their kids. Some people apply it to their partners. And I do think more broadly, it is just about love and how strong love can be. Ugh, I sound like such a wad, but it's true. If I were going to believe in an afterlife, it would be based on the fact that the love that I have for my wife and son is stronger than the body that it is in. And it must continue, because I don't feel like the way I feel about them is beholden to any construct, even the idea of linear time or existence. So I hope that was trippy enough for you. This song, another part of this, the history of this song for me personally, is I come from punk rock and hardcore and a lot of political stuff, and I still love that stuff. There's a political song on my most recent EP called Rebels. One of my band's most popular songs is called Devils, and it's a very political song. But I was in this punk rock band called the Dirty Rotten So-and-Sos, and we were, I would say, political. We had some political songs, some political ideas, and we played for causes and that kind of thing. And when I started playing solo and playing folk music, and the ratio of politics to personal shifted wildly towards personal, I carried some of that punk rock guilt around, like I'm not making a difference, because the joke, of course, is like I was making a difference before. I was playing in a basement to 8 people who already thought what I thought, but I was saying what I thought super loud, so I was revolutionary. But I did have some of that guilt, that like, oh, I'm just singing about myself, and it's not as important as what I used to sing about. And then I put this song out on my second solo record, and I had a handful, enough that I lost count, of women come up to me and say, hey, the guy in my life has told me how much he loves this song because he couldn't say how he felt about our kid, or he couldn't tell me how he felt about me. And it wasn't a million people. It was, 5 or 6 people. But I realized that in my previous musical life, I was helping people express their anger and their frustration, and that felt good, and it's important. I listen to a lot of that music today. But I realized I was still helping people express things that maybe they didn't have the voice or the words for. And I thought, there are better educated, more informed, more skilled people that can handle the political. If me just being honest in a song helps somebody express something good, I'm glad. I see a lot of value in that, and for that reason, I'm thankful for this song. I don't know where songs come from, so I do genuinely feel thankful for each one of my songs. It's hard to even take that much credit for them, because like I said, I don't know where they come from. I don't know. And the good ones, the ones that last, the ones that connect, are even more mysterious. I could sit down and write you a song right now, but it wouldn't be this song. This song just sort of fell out of the sky, and I'm glad it did. It's called Before You Were Born, and even though 2021 is trash, I'm going to play you a happy song, and I hope you see something you feel in this song. That was a lot of confusing senses to blend. I hope you see something you feel in this thing you're about to hear, and I hope it tastes great. Pick a day and I will find you. Mark a map with a pen. Miles and days where we are now. I will love you there and then. 'Cause I think I loved you before you were born. I never loved you less, but somehow I love you more. So close your eyes and take a breath. Let it all happen again. Each day like the day before. All my failures laid in front of me always made me feel a little small. But no one could love you better than me. No, not no one at all. 'Cause I think I loved you before you were born. I never loved you less, but somehow I love you more. So close your eyes and take a breath. Let it all happen again. Each day like the day before. 'Cause I think I loved you before you were born. I never loved you less, but somehow I love you more. So close your eyes and take a breath. Let it all happen again. Each day like the day before. Each day like the day before. Thanks. Thanks for listening. Let's talk about some music. I could have sworn I had recommended that record, but according to my notes, I have not. So check it out. This record is called Roadhouse Sun by Ryan Bingham, and I love this record. I love Ryan Bingham. Fun fact, the last big show Tori and I bought tickets to go see before everything happened with COVID was Ryan Bingham in Milwaukee. We went and saw him, and it was phenomenal. He plays country music, but the good kind, the kind that I like, and he's authentic. Before he was a country singer, he was a rodeo guy, so he's not playing. And this is a great record. All of his records are great, but the A side of this record in particular is phenomenal. Listen to Tell My Mother I Miss Her So. It's great. Yeah, I love Ryan Bingham, and he thinks a lot of the things that I think politically and socially, which is funny because a lot of people don't really pay attention to what he's saying. So every now and again, someone will catch it, and there will be this great rebellion of fans telling him to be quiet or whatever. And it's like, did you just get here, or were you not paying attention for the last 10 years, or? But it's good. I dig it. Also, and I have no physical thing to hold up for you because it doesn't exist physically. Go on Netflix and watch the show Afterlife. In the shortest terms, it's about a guy going through grief. And I think it's fair to say that it's a comedy. I would say it's comedic at the very least. It's everything. Again, watch Afterlife because in a much more artful and entertaining way, it says what I've been trying to say today, that life is not just a lot of things, it's everything. It's all the things. It's, it's too much. It's too big for us to label and to sometimes even to process. And it's a great show about a guy who's experiencing life within grief. And the grief is very real. This show made me cry a handful of times, and it made me laugh really hard a handful of times. And there are 2 seasons, and I believe they've announced a 3rd. And it's good, so check it out. That's it. I think we went a little long today, but there aren't really any rules for this. You could turn it off if you want to. That's part of the freedom, actually. A lot of times when you're, let's call it, less successful, there's all this downside that you focus on, I wish I was famous, I wish I had all this money, I wish I was playing to this crowd. But with that comes a lot of eyes that see your missteps and a lot of voices that want to talk about your missteps. And when you have a podcast that only 40 people watch and they get it for free, you can pretty much do whatever you want. There's a comedian that I like a lot, that occasionally says controversial things, and he just goes like, "What are you gonna do? You can't stop me from telling jokes at strip malls." Like, so yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope that you were able to extend whatever amount of grace you felt like I needed, so that what I was saying can exist in a world where I can also be wrong. And I hope you know that if you are hurting, if your year was trash, I'm sorry. And I have intentionally made things to try to help, I guess. There are more practical ways in which I help that don't belong on camera, but I somewhere along the way, an element of my creative life became about trying to comfort and help. And with that, I'm sure comes a ton of failure. And certainly not a ton of success. But I've been sleeping better, and I hope you guys are sleeping okay too. This is going to come out on Wednesday, the day of the inauguration. I'm hoping that it's peaceful and great, and the beginning of a different chapter for my country and for the people in it. And for me, that means that everyone will be welcome, everyone will be set up to succeed, everyone will be safe, and that's what I think. So, in the meantime, be good. If you're really upset about something I said, please just give me a call on the phone. It's some combination of 7 numbers or 10 numbers, depending on where you live. And if you can guess it right, you deserve to talk to me on the phone. The heck with it. I love you guys, and I will talk to you soon. Next week is the plan. In the meantime, be good, take care of yourself, take care of somebody else, and we'll talk soon. Bye.